We're flying casual on Friday night, the night that the Han Solo, a Star Wars story, officially releases in North America, maybe worldwide. I know the UK is getting it. So, Brock, you and I had a chance to see this movie last night. We absolutely hated it.
Yeah, I
Wait,
had a terrible time.
we didn't talk about this, so I'm going to throw you under the bus here. But um, right now, of the 4 Disney era Star Wars films, where do you put this one?
I don't know. Like, I want to put Last Jedi at the top of my list because I'm still on the, like, no, screw everybody else. This is a movie that's important. I guess I would have to put it on my rewatchability and maybe put it as Rogue One first, and then Force Awakens and Han Solo tied for second. I know that's a cop-out answer, but, like, Han Solo, it's still, I said it last night, it's like having avocados for the first time, where you're like, this is kind of weird, but, like, I kind of like what's going on here. And I don't want to use the explanation of, I have to go see this 3 more times. No, it's more of like, I need to let this sink in, because this truly is a new type of Star Wars movie, but it's still a Star Wars movie. I don't know. So, yeah, I want to say it's higher than Last Jedi, just because it's fun.
Yeah, for me, I think right now I have it above the 2 episodic films. I'm not sure if I liked it better than Rogue One yet.
Yeah.
But it's weird because after the first viewing, I definitely enjoyed this one more than I enjoyed Rogue One on the first viewing. But I've seen Rogue One a bazillion times, and it just keeps getting better and better for me. So we'll see. Time will obviously tell. I spoke to Andrew, but I haven't spoken to Rob about it, but Andrew said this is his least favorite of the 4 Disney era ones. But then he said, I did not like it.
Yeah.
It's just, he just didn't. So it's definitely, it is different, but we'll go into that kind of stuff. But we want to talk about something else, because when we were like getting ready to see the movie yesterday, news dropped. There was a rumor, the Hollywood Reporter was reporting that the Boba Fett, the Boba Fett spin-off movie, which has been in kind of development forever, is actually going to happen. And I think they confirmed it early this morning, late last night, and that James Mangold, the director, I think he also wrote The Wolverine and Logan, he is on board to write and direct the Boba Fett film. And when I woke up this morning, I texted you, and you responded with some thoughts on this.
Yeah, I have thoughts. I guess before I get into that, though, let me ask you this. Do you want this film? Besides the obvious answer of, like, you love Star Wars and will take any content they put out.
For me, my answer is funny. I don't not want it. I mean, it could. I think a Boba Fett film could work, but I was never somebody that was obsessed with Boba Fett.
Yeah.
So I'm not really like, I need this. But I think they can make it work in a few ways. I think him and, the original, I think, rumor of Rogue One was that it was a group of bounty hunters had to get these plans, and he was one of the bounty hunters. I think in that kind of, like a team film, it could work.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we just had the prequel trilogy where we see him as a child, and we got the Clone Wars where we kind of learn more about him.
Yeah. What
more are they going to do? So I'm not sure. I'm not sure. There's another character I would love to see get a film, but we'll talk about that off camera.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it either. I mean, everybody knows I'm a big bounty hunter fan, so I'm interested to see where it goes. But, like, Boba Fett is just so inflated. Is that right? Yeah, deflated. Yeah, it's overinflated by the fans, where it's just like, oh, he's so cool looking. It's like, yeah, but, like, I don't know. I mean, the Clone Wars show has really done some work to make him a little bit more interesting, but that's all up for debate once we get some real info on the movie. My thought when I saw this article was like, oh, interesting. So it's going to be a Boba Fett movie, not like, I think you said it right. Like, he more exists in a ensemble movie that would be like bounty hunters or like, underworld sort of thing. Kind of like what Han Solo existed. Is this possibly, this is my thought I had, is this possibly Han Solo 2? But until they know how successful Han Solo 1 is, they're just going to call it the Boba Fett movie. Because Boba Fett and Han Solo can very easily exist in the same world. I mean, they mentioned... Oh, I almost did a spoiler. Sorry, guys. They exist... Even before you see Han Solo, it's like, yeah, Han Solo and Boba Fett can exist in the same time period, universe, just community of Star Wars. So... It's hard to not say things about Han Solo. Well, like we're left. We know that Alden Ehrenreich is signed to do 3 other movies, which is not uncommon. But if Han Solo does well, they're gonna want to make more movies. It's just a no-brainer. So, is this really just a backup plan? We have our next movie figured out, but if Han Solo is so popular, it just becomes Solo. Boba Fett Strikes Back.
I kind of like the idea, and we're talking about this off and I think we spoke about this on a few podcasts. I like the idea of this connecting to Solo, of the Boba Fett film connecting to Solo, and we can't spoil whether or not Boba Fett is in Solo or not yet. We'll spoil that later. But I think that it would be kind of cool if what you're thinking is right, but not so for me. Not so much a Solo straight up sequel. Like I texted you earlier. I think this is how we started the conversation. Was something happens towards the end of Solo that gives you an idea of, oh, this is where the next film could go. And I text you. I said, I don't want that to be the next film. But I mean, I don't want that to be the next Solo film. I'm fine with that being its own movie, but not a Solo film. I kind of feel like you put a Boba Fett movie because of where Han is going at the end of this movie. You could tie that into Boba Fett, and you could even have like 2 points of view of what's happening there.
Yeah,
that's how. I mean, that's a unique way to spin it for me. But the other thing I brought up with you is, well, they got James Mangold to write and direct. I would kind of want Jonathan Kasdan to come in and write it again.
Yeah.
But then I corrected myself and I said, but you know what? X-Men Origins Wolverine was a god-awful movie. And James Mangold came in and I actually really enjoyed the Wolverine.
Yeah.
And he came in and kind of corrected with the Wolverine, and then they made Logan, which I don't know how many people didn't actually like Logan.
Yeah.
It was a great film. And, he didn't have his hands in the original one. And Han Solo, I would say, is a way better movie than X-Men Origins Wolverine. But it's it's the same kind of idea. But yeah, so I changed my tune on that one quickly.
Yeah. You make a good point though. Like Han Solo and the Kasdan family, like there is that union. But at the end of the day, it's like we appreciate it, but like it's got to make money. So, but
it's for me though, it's the voice of Han. Like because part of the movie, part of what makes Solo such a great movie, and this is not a spoiler, is Han and Chewie's the dynamic between Han and Chewie. And I mean, look, James Mangold can write that. I'm not saying you can't, but there's something, I don't know if everybody could. And those were the best moments of Solo.
Yeah.
Were those moments. And, because they were so strong, I'd kind of like that to carry over. And I like the continuity of that. But again, James Mangold took a horrible Wolverine beginning and completed like Matt. It's kind of like Matt Reeves with Planet of the Apes, except again, Rise of Planet of the Apes was way, way better than X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Yeah. It's... No, I think you're right. I think it should be a Boba Fett movie, and then Han Solo maybe is a fairly important part in the movie. The only thing I could think of that I'm really interested in knowing about is exactly... if there is any sort of like link to the clones the Jedi clones or whatever. Like, because it would be interesting. I mean, who do you think they would cast in this? Like, let's not talk about a new person. Do they recast someone like a Tamara Morrison? Because I don't know the time period they're gonna choose. It could be an older Boba Fett that would ideally make him look like Tamara Morrison. I mean, he might be a little too old to do something like that, or at least just wear a suit. But do you play into that storyline of like the identity of like you're just a clone? You're not like you were never born properly, or you're manifested by your crazy father, if you want to call Jango Fett crazy.
I love Jango Fett. I think it depends on when it takes place. If it takes place in this Solo Star Wars story timeline, I think, and somebody tweeted at him, Daniel Logan, that's his name? The actor that portrays Boba Fett, young Boba Fett, and in the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
He was like, somebody said, "Can you cast him?" And he said, "Please." Like he was into it. Cast me as, and he goes to all the conventions and he loves it. And so if it's in that time, I would go for him. I mean, look, it's Boba Fett.
Yeah.
He's got a helmet on, and I would like to see him without that helmet off.
Yeah.
We were talking before camera about a character in a certain movie, won't say anything, that takes their helmet off, and we're like, sometimes that mystique of having the helmet on, we know what he looks like without it, so it's not like ooh.
Yeah.
And now if imagine they take it off and it's a white dude.
Yeah.
Like it has to look like Jango because he is a clone of Jango. And sorry, not to spoil Solo Star Wars story, but this was really, I mean, Rogue One kind of sprinkled in, Last Jedi sprinkled in, but this one was like the prequels are a thing.
Yeah,
they're a thing.
Yeah.
Like because it was like Rogue One kind of sprinkled it, Last Jedi kind of continued it, and this one was like,
remember this?
Yeah. But they are acknowledging. We were afraid when The Force Awakens came out that they would ignore the prequels completely.
Yeah.
And they mentioned the clone thing or whatever, but they kind of completely forgot about the prequels, and now they're kind of like, no, that's a very important part of our history. And I think if they're doing that, Boba Fett, if he takes off that helmet, needs to be Boba Fett. Here's a question for you though. Boba Fett doesn't take off his helmet; he's just got to sound like him. Do you get, I can't remember his name from Rebels, do you get Rex to do his voice? Or do you go, is it Lee D. Bradley? Anyway. Or do you get Daniel Logan or Tamara Morrison to do his voice?
See, I think if the decision is to keep Boba Fett in the helmet for most of the movie, it doesn't matter who you cast. And no slam against actors. It's like, because you can make, if it's Boba Fett with the helmet on, you could have Tamara Morrison voice come out of the speaker. So like he's a very good actor. And nothing against Daniel Logan. I just haven't seen anything with him in Attack of the Clones besides that. I don't think he did. No, he didn't do any voices on. Or I don't really know. I do know he loves the character. Big on Instagram. I think he has his own custom Boba Fett costume of sorts. So that being said, it's like, so if you take off the helmet and it's him and he just has to say a few lines, I'd be kind of on board for that. Again, it's like it all depends on what the story is. But or like you're saying the voice of Rex, and I wouldn't hate that either. Like something that you wouldn't really notice. It's just a little detail. It's like, oh yeah, that's really nice. I like that.
Well, they did that. They did something similar to that in Solo.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, exactly the same.
Yeah. I don't know.
Brock's roommate needs the keys. He's got Daryl's here. Oh, Daryl hated the movie. Can you have Daryl come in and say
he can't hear you?
He hated that movie.
He had a fantastic time because he enjoys times with his friends.
He hates most movies, though. Daryl does. Unless it's country music. And I think he was waiting for Red Solo Cup to play at some point.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. Sorry, where were we? Yeah, I don't know. What was... I guess my question is, does Filoni get involved in this at all? Not that he really owns the Boba Fett character, but like he does own sort of like the idea of what happens between the movies.
I feel like he's got a Star Wars Resistance show.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's got that, and I think if anyone has any questions, there's a story group, and if they really want to delve deep into it and they really need him, I mean, he's right across the hall.
Yeah, that's
so
what
I can't see. So I don't think he'll be too involved. He showed up on set on Rogue One. I'm sure he showed up on Solo, Last Jedi stuff. I mean, I'm sure he'll be around, but I think he's just invested in his in that Resistance show.
Yeah.
And I kind of would rather him just stick with that right now. Like, make that the best show you can. Because I'm really curious about that show because he just did Rebels. Like, I don't want just a Rebels, but 30 years later.
Yeah. Here's a question, too. Is this their ability? Is this Lucasfilm's first stab at something very randomly new with Star Wars? 20th Century Fox is kind of doing it with X-Men New Mutants, where it's a horror film. We've talked about this before. Like, where could something like that exist in Star Wars? Could this be an instance where you can get an R-rated Star Wars movie where it's ultraviolet, like a Deadpool or anything that, like, you know, Jason Statham's in, where it's just, like, heightened, like, violence, maybe a little bit more bloody than Jason Statham. I can't think of you know what I mean. But
they call it the Meg, too.
Yeah, exactly. Or like, I don't know if you saw this. Someone, I think it was I forget which one on Facebook, but there was like The Rock as Boba Fett. So like that's got in my head, and we're like, you know, nothing against The Rock. The Rock puts people in seats. So yeah, why wouldn't you put The Rock in things? But The Rock brings a certain type of whatever. So, but he knows how to do those action flicks. Is this going to be that kind of movie? Because it's like Boba Fett. Is he an interesting character, or is he just like a shoot 'em up guy?
I think, James Mangold's I really think that they're going to try anyway to make him an interesting character. For sure. The Rock is Boba Fett. He's too big. He's too big. Boba Fett's just... he's a clone, and he's kind of the son of a clone.
Yeah.
He was raised as a son. So he's got a unique story and whatnot, and then obviously what happens in Clone Wars with him. I'm really curious where they go with this, but your point about... I don't think it'll be R-rated at all. I just can't see them doing an R-rated Star Wars. And the thing is, you know, when we left that theater yesterday, you were like, you felt like there was something missing. And maybe you got it towards the end. You felt like there was something missing. Rob gave it a 6.5 out of 10. I don't understand how he rates things anymore, but we'll talk about that. But and Andrew liked 85% of it. He did not like the cinematography, which I think critics love the cinematography. But I think because it's Bradford Young and they have a hard-on for him. But anyway, I just think, like, I actually like the cinematography because what I liked about it was that it wasn't just bright colors like a Marvel movie. Yeah. The difference, though, is Marvel movies can make $1 billion like that. No pun intended on the snap. But you know what I mean? Audience, that's what audiences kind of want. But we'll talk about that another time. The thing is, and I've read people online and they're like, before the movie came out, so this isn't a spoiler, before the movie came out, they're like, oh man, this movie, it's going to have no force. What's Star Wars without the force? And what's this and what's that? And I want to see the reaction after this weekend, after next weekend, people's thoughts on this movie. And if that's a big factor of people's opinion into maybe not liking this movie, they're like, well, it's not Star Wars, it doesn't have the force. How does a Boba Fett film fare to compare to that? Because that is, the difference is Han Solo can't be connected to the Force whatsoever, because by the time we meet him in A New Hope, he doesn't believe in any of that stuff, and he's never seen it. People can mention it to him. Boba Fett, on the other hand, he could be exposed to the Force, so I think maybe you can get around it that way. It would be kind of cool if, they obviously did it with the Inquisitors, But it would be kind of cool if maybe he was hired to go after somebody, maybe like a young Force sensitive or something like that, and that he's got to kill him or something. But I don't know. I think I'm really curious to see what the plot is. I absolutely don't. I 100% don't think it'll be R-rated. And I think and I hate Andrew, but I think after Solo comes out, I think we'll see the cinematography of these Star Wars movies brighter, a little more inviting, less artsy, and I think that's what we're going to do. It's interesting that Solo would be kind of the most artistic looking of the Star Wars film when it is the most bubblegum popcorn of them all as well.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting. I do like that Lucasfilm is taking these chances on, I like the Han Solo movie, but as I'm driving home and thinking about it, I'm like, I feel like the question for a lot of people is going to be, do we need this movie? I mean, it's too late. The movie's been made, but it's like, it's...
a lot of people are like, we didn't need this. It's forgettable. And I sit there and I go, yeah, but you could argue the same with Rogue One.
Yeah.
You could argue the same with an Obi-Wan movie. Definitely with a Boba Fett movie. And it's just, these are one-offs. And this is the thing. We're so used to the Star Wars saga. And it's a saga.
Yeah,
blah, blah, blah. These are just isolated stories to kind of like bide our time in between them, get to know the characters that we love a little bit more. And I mean, there's no difference in going to go watch Solo, a Star Wars story, the same way there's no difference of you going out and buying Last Shot. That they both live in the same world. Even though now they're branching out into film, which you and I said they never would, but mostly me. But they're branching out into film, yeah. But this is the same. For me, this was the same thing as my Adventures of Han Solo novel that I read. That's all this was. Yeah, we don't need it. But I didn't need the books. I read the books, and that's just how I feel. And I feel like, this was fun. And now give me the main course in a lot of ways.
This is Lucasfilm, like, fleshing out the new expanded universe. It's unfortunate that a lot of things have to become legends, but this is no different from that. And I think this is what the fans are clamoring for anyways. It's just a matter of, like, does Lucasfilm give the fans what they want? That's so arbitrary that it doesn't matter because, like, someone's gonna... Like, Boba Fett is a very cool character visually, and obviously with the way the fans, like, jumped on that character who has 5 lines in the original trilogy, he became popular. He got his own, like, book series. He's been in comics and all that. And there's a lot of, like, expanded universe things that are, like, known. Like, Mara Jade is an interesting character. Thrawn is an interesting character. What is Boba Fett's expanded universe thing? I mean, I'm sure a fan of Boba Fett can name off, like, 5 or 6 things. I know that, like, I enjoyed the Boba Fett stuff in Tales of the Bounty Hunters by, I think, Timothy Zahn. Or no, I think it's a bunch of writers. But, like, those are fun, and they exist, but, like, there's not, like, a book that's like, this defines Boba Fett. So, like, that's what I'm trying to get a point is, like, it should be just for fun to expand the universe. It's like, we get Han Solo. This is how he meets Chewie. This is how he meets Lando. This is how he gets the Millennium Falcon. This is where all these sayings come from. This is why he acts the way he does. That's what the movie does, and I think it sets out and does a good job. And I know this is not a review about Han Solo, but it's sort of like people were disappointed with Last Jedi because it wasn't the Luke they wanted, or it wasn't the Jedis they wanted. That it's unfortunate, but, like, you gotta let people make the Star Wars they want to make. So Han Solo and Boba Fett, it's an interpretation that someone's gonna put out.
This is this should be on the review, but I think that the thing now is we're entering a world where George Lucas doesn't own Star Wars anymore, and he's not the overlord of Star Wars. Yep. And the thing that when you go online, forget all of the hate. You can look at dislikes, but forget the hate because they're freaking morons. But, like, you look at the people that don't like this, that like this, that don't like this, that like this, and you realize Star Wars is something different to everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
And the only connective tissue that it ever had was George Lucas and it being his vision. And that's gone. And so you're getting these different ideas. Like J.J. Abrams' idea of Star Wars is this, and Rian Johnson's idea of Star Wars is this. And, you know, the Kasdan's idea is this. And Gareth Edwards and Tony Gilroy's is this. And there's like, they're all different. And it's like, if you wrote a Star Wars story, I wrote one, they would be completely different. And before it was George Lucas was like, this is going to happen and that's going to happen. And you can write this and you're going to write that. But now there's no, and you know, Kathleen Kennedy's that person, but Kathleen Kennedy's idea of Star Wars is different from George Lucas because she is not George Lucas.
Yeah.
So, you know, in the story group, all of them over there, they all probably have individual ideas of Star Wars. Everyone came into Star Wars at a different time, learned to love it a different way at a different moment in their lives. And it's just, now we're getting these movies that, you know, on some levels they might feel more like fan films because they don't have that George Lucas connection to them. But this is what it is. Like, George Lucas isn't going to be around forever, unfortunately. He sold these movies because, you know, because everybody out there complained about the prequels to him anyway. And so now they're like, well, let's give it to these people. And it didn't work with Lord and Miller, and I don't think that affected the movie one way or another.
No.
Like, what I saw, you could not tell that there was a director's change.
Yeah.
And, yeah, that's what we're going to get. We're going to get different movies with different styles from different voices about Star Wars, but a different type of Star Wars every time.
Yeah. Yeah, like, it's just the world we live in now. And we gotta think, too, it's like, the world is different from, you know, the 70s, 80s, and then, you know, the prequel early 2000s or late 90s. It sounds, I don't want to bring it up just because, we have to be woke on all these issues. But, like, Last Shot is a classic example of how, like, you know, there's a point where there's a character that I'm sure Andrew probably talks about in this review. I don't like listening to Andrew's voice, so I didn't watch his book review. But there's a character that uses the pronoun they instead of him. And it's never really explained, and it is like a little disorientating at first, but you just get used to it. And then I looked it up, I was like, why is it like this? And it's like, he just decides to put it in. And that's it. There's nothing. It's just, that's the person's pronoun. That's it. So, like, that didn't exist. That didn't exist like 10 years ago. I could be wrong, right or wrong about that. Like, you know, Star Wars has always been criticized for being a very white movie. And, you know, you get books now where, like, female characters are bigger and bigger and more, like, Rebels. Hera is arguably one of the main characters, like, almost as big as the actual main character, Ezra Bridger. So it's like, those are every movie going forward this is why the tangent I'm going on, I'm bringing up, the movies going forward are never going to feel like George Lucas, because George Lucas wrote in a time where we didn't care about these extra things. So that's always going to be a difference. So, I mean, that's why Emilia Clarke is a pretty prominent character in Han Solo. She's there because of a reason. But, like, you know what I mean. Like, it's like we got to have strong female characters because that's what people want to see. So, I don't know why I made this a huge social, but I think it's a valid point of, like, where we're going, where we're like, you got to think about the a million different things that are going to be different about these movies. So, I don't know. Boba Fett, yay or nay?
Yay.
Yeah.
Why not?
I mean, see it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I've already bought the tickets for it.
Like, if we live in a world where Rampage can be a movie, I still have The Rock on my mind. Like, why can't we have a Boba Fett movie?
That skyscraper movie looks like something else. I'll tell you that.
I will just go see the movie because I'm like, sure, why not?
The Rock's in it.
Yeah,
The Rock's in it.
The Rock is in it.
All right, let's wrap this up before we go. Well, how about you? Well, you already said it. Do you have a rating for the solo Star Wars story yet?
You know what? I'm going to quell my fanboyness, and I'm going to give it a 7. I think it's an enjoyable movie. I think it isn't... I think it's something different, but right now we just have to, like, initial response. I'm going to give it a 7. I want to go 8, but let's just give it a 7. It's a movie. It's good. It's fun. It delivers. It gives you what you want, and I don't know what else you would expect from that movie, but I don't know. You know me. I flip flop. I'll change my thoughts when we get to the part where we review all these movies again.
All right, thanks for watching, everybody. That is all for us here at Flying Casual. Go see Solo Star Wars Story because we're going to start doing spoilers very, very soon. Actually, there's a video on the channel that already talk about the ending, so it's already been spoiled on the channel. But like I said, a week ago, everything we do with spoilers, you will be forewarned that it will be spoiler heavy because we don't want to ruin this movie. Although I will say this before we leave. There's only a couple things you can really spoil about the movie because it is just kind of like a straightforward, fun adventure film. Like it is arguably paint by the numbers, but I thought it succeeded exactly what it was trying to be.
Yeah.
All right, Brock. Thanks so much. We should get to work now. Thanks for coming here, and may the force of others be with you.
Always.
Hey scumbags, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on our video. As always, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rebel Scum Podcast, for all the latest videos.